The value of Bloomburrow continues to be misjudged, with cards not being recognized until it's too late. In today's video, we're going to share with you a card that has spiked over 825% on this weekend alone. As well, we are going to cover a reserve list card that jumped over 170% because of the Eldrazi. You don't want to miss this information. It's coming up next. A play booster box of Bloomburrow really probably isn't worth the money, but some of these singles are starting to rise in value the more players play with the cards. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thank you again for hanging out with me on the channel today, and we're even going to talk about some reserve list cards and Murders at Karlov Manor in today's video. Now, if you're new to my channel and you enjoyed today's content, don't forget, like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that notification bell. Guys, it's awesome to have you all here with me. So let's get into this, okay? We have a card we're going to talk about that has gone up 825% on this weekend alone. Players started recognizing how great this card was, and they started to buy copies. And then they bought copies and more copies. I'm sure this card is going to be in next week's top 10 by the sheer volume of sales that happened on Saturday into Sunday. Now you guys probably just want to get to the card, so let's check this out. Now here's a conversation about a rebound effect because we now recognize how cool this card is. This is Fortune Teller's Talent from Commander Bloomburrow. Now this card is a rare and it started out at like $30 on the pre-order because of course you'd have to take apart Commander decks, and then this card totally lost value, went down to like $1. But now, a matter of weeks later, and we see how great this card is, and now it's starting to rebound, okay? Now, this card has gone up 825%. So what does the Fortune Teller's Talent do? Well, this card, for 1 blue, it comes into play. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. Great, already has a good effect. But if you pay to get it to level 2, which is 1 blue and 3 other, as long as you've cast a spell this turn, you may play cards from the top of your library. That's insane, okay? It's awesome in Commander. Then you get to the next level, which is 1 blue plus 2, and it says, spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand cost 2 less to cast. Now think about that from the top of your library. You're now looking at the cards, you know what's coming, but you're going to pay 2 less for the spells you're going to cast. Depending on how you're building your Commander deck, not only is this card a great utilitarian card, it can be essential for some Commander decks. This card is insane. I have not played against it yet, but I know people who got the card and have been talking about it all weekend long. So, you know, let's think about this card in the next week or two and see where the sales really take us. But that shows you, as a card that has jumped up this much in price, it is unlikely to fall anytime soon. It can be found in the Commander, collector boxes, but also found in the Commander deck, and that's it. Those are the only place you're going to get this card right now. And we know now with Bloomburrow sales already starting to slow down, particularly in the collector boxes, that the Commander decks will be a place you can get them if you really desire the card. But local LGSs and online retailers are likely to adjust the price if this card goes too high. So be ready for it, just like we saw with the Eldrazi Incursion. There's no MSRP, you never know where these prices are going to go, and the next few days will probably be critical if you have to have this card right away. But we're not done there. There's another reserve list card we have to talk about, and it's because of the Eldrazi. Now, before we get to the reserve list card that is spiking because of it, we have to look why it's happening, and this is with the Fused Atrocity. Let's take a closer look at this Commander Modern Horizons 3 beast of an Eldrazi. This thing is, of course, 5 colorless, or 1 of each color. It is a legendary creature Eldrazi. It's a 2/5 with Devoid. It says, whenever you cast an Eldrazi spell, you may pay 2. If you do, copy all spells you control, then copy all other activated and triggered abilities you control. You may choose new targets for the copies. Now, that in itself doesn't seem like some deadly effect, does it? It doesn't seem like that's going to be the end of it. Wait, yes it does. That's totally insane and really powerful. You just want to make it trigger as much as you can, and you want to have it trigger when nobody expects it. And that's where this reserve list card comes into play. So here we have Winding Canyons from Weatherlight. This card is spiked from being like an $18 card all the way up to now $54. And of course, it's up $34.11 on the month. So what does this card do that makes it so vital to the Atrocity? Well, this card taps right away for colorless mana. It doesn't come into play tapped, no drawback. Now, you can pay 2 mana, and until end of turn, you may play creature cards whenever you could play instants. So all of your Eldrazi are now going to have flash for the turn, which means you can cast these things, get multiple triggered effects whenever you feel like it by this little hidden card that most people are going to overlook, but they're going to understand it very, very soon as more and more players are buying this card. This is insane to think that that card, because of the Eldrazi, is now spiking up in value. I did talk about this card in my weekend video of the top 10. You can go back and look at that reserve list video. The card made it way high into the numbers, so I can't wait to see what the sales are like this week with so many players enjoying playing with Eldrazi. A card like the Atrocity is going to get a lot more attention with cards like Winding Canyons kind of fused into the deck. It's an amazing card. But that's not it. Now we got to jump over to what's happening with Murders at Karlov Manor. I can't believe we're talking about this in today's video. So let's take a look at Undercity Sewers, and this is from Murders at Karlov Manor. This card has been trending up for quite a while, and it's a slow rise, a slow burn as it were. But in the last couple of days, this thing has really started showing some serious legs, and this card used to be about a $3 to $5 card. Okay, remember that. This card was not really thought of, as were all of the Surveil lands. Even though people thought they were decent, people hated the set so much, they weren't really buying them. So take a closer look at the card in case you've forgotten, because you didn't buy it. It is a land that is an island, swamp, remember that. It's fetchable, okay? Undercity Sewers comes into play tapped. But when Undercity Sewers comes into play, you get to Surveil 1. Look at the top card of your library, and you can put that card in your graveyard. That is a very significant advantage inside of Commander decks. The ability of this card, as well as the other Surveil lands, has now kind of caught on, and players are really starting to buy them. But the problem with players buying so many of this card is the price is starting to rise because this set wasn't well thought of. Players didn't really like Murders at Karlov Manor, and the couple of cards that were kind of good, or at least decent, there's not that many out there because players aren't opening the boxes now. So you can expect cards like this to continue to rise, probably past the Ikoria and New Capenna Triome lands. It's going to continue to gain steam as players continue to build new commander decks that are going to require the Surveil lands and put a more strenuous motion on top of what we have available in the supply. The supply is not enough, okay? And those lands being bought up now, even the different versions, okay? There are some sales on the pre-release ones, by the way, if you looked on TCG Player or an MTG Stocks, that show a spike of like 60, 70 bucks. Guys, don't really get too much into that. The card's gaining value, but not that fast. It's not going up by hundreds of percent, which it does show as a couple of sales. Keep in mind, though, there's only so many out there. So it's really one of those things you have to check and see, because even cards from Wilds of Eldraine, there's an uncommon that has been spiking up as well. There are cards like the Knowledge Vault from the reserve list that continues to see strong sales days and days later. Guys, there's a lot of reaction on the market right now to a lot of these cards. I will continue to cover these for you and let you know what's going on, but hopefully we can get ahead of this and let you guys know before these spikes happen to let you guys purchase them ahead of everyone else, because this is kind of nutty to think this is how it's going to go. So thanks again for hanging out with me. Thanks for being here on the channel. I hope you enjoyed today's content, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for another video. What? We're at the end of the video already? You guys made it to the end? You're here right now with all the cool patrons hanging out with me? Well, that's amazing, guys. These are the patrons. They're the supporters of this channel. Because of them and the YouTube membership members, I'm able to put out daily content. So thanks again to all my patrons. Thanks again to my YouTube membership members. And if you can find a slot, you should join up and help out. All right, see you soon. Welcome back to the end of the video. You've made it to the ramble and the jamble. That's right, guys. All right, now what are we going to talk about? Well, number one, let's not forget that Knowledge Vault has actually gone up 320% in a month. Winding Canyons 170% this month alone because of the Atrocity. Guys, the cards being used seem to be very directly related to not old school stuff, but what's happening in Commander. Because these cards can't exactly be copied the same way, it makes them very sought after, very hard to find. The strain on the supply is insane when you see them just drop down. And everyone goes, hey, this card's like 50, 60 bucks now. Let's go through some of our bulk and see if we have extra copies lying around. Then we can make some... Yes, but how about the people who listened And you guys know who you are. When this card was like $7-8, and I said you should probably buy 4 copies, at least get it out of the way. That's usually my rule, right? Buy 4 copies, get it out of the way. That way you can make some money later if it spikes. Well, I bet some of you out there who bought copies can now cash in and make some serious cash off those cards. It's insane. Now, if you're asking how many copies I have, I think I have 4. Plus 1 when I opened the actual box of Weatherlight that I owned. So I think I have maybe 5, and 1 or 2 of them are actually in decks. So I don't have that many myself, but it is cool to see cards that you know you've talked about finally go up in price. Now the Scepter, that was a throw off. I didn't expect that to happen with Flubs, but I owned copies from years before. So I got lucky on that one. Some of you guys, though, you may have caught on to this. You may have bought some of these. Don't forget Lodestone Bauble, by the way. That's kind of crazy that card's so cheap right now. It makes me wonder. It's a 0 casting cost artifact. You get those basic lands back, or you can throw people off, too, by forcing basic lands back on top of their library. It can be a lot of fun anyway. So I hope you guys found it informative, though. When I looked at all that stuff, you look at the numbers and you go, that's insane. The percentages on some of these cards is insane. And for those people who think the reserve list, nothing's going to happen, it always happens. It happens when you don't expect it. It happens when new commander decks come around and Wizards try something new. So stay ahead of the curve, look for those weird oddball cards, and somebody, maybe not us, maybe not you, maybe not me, but somebody's going to make a lot of money. I just want to have some so I don't have to pay so much money next time when they spike.